Good morning, everybody. We're going to be doing an encounter at 11, but for now, we wanted to hang out with Flash and say good morning to everybody. Hope you guys are having a great day. Trying to get this lighting figured out. It seems a little wackadoodle. That's my new word for today is wackadoodle. That's a little bit better. I just don't know. I think that looks all right. All right, I'm sure you guys have picked up on it by now, but I have a fennec fox in my hands. So, we have over 150 animals here, and fennec foxes are just one of the cool ones. Good morning, everybody. This is Finn. He's a fennec fox. This is Flash. He's a sloth. We're live here at Ocoee Riverside farm. We're hanging out this morning. We're going to be doing some sloth encounters starting at 11. So if you ever wanted to see what a sloth encounter is like here at Ocoee Riverside farm, keep watching. Another really cool thing that we do is an encounter with fennec foxes. Fennec foxes are amazing. They're going to live in the desert, really hot areas. And these huge ears, they kind of act like radiators. So the blood vessels go up inside of there and then they help them to cool off. Another thing that fennec foxes do to really cool off very rapidly is they pant. So I'm not talking panting like, I just ran up a hill. These little guys are doing it over 600 times in a minute. I mean, that's like 10 breaths a second. Now, I don't know who sat there with a stopwatch counting their breaths, but that would be pretty amazing. Also, on the bottom of their feet, their little pads, they have fur. So that way, when they're sneaking around, you can't even hear them. Because maybe they're just sneaking up for a cuddle. What does the fox say? Oh no, please don't start that song. If that gets stuck in my head, I don't know what I'll do. Good morning, everybody. If you're just now joining us, we're live here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. This big guy above me here is Flash. He's a two-toed or two-fingered Linnaeus sloth. We're going to be feeding him starting at 11 a.m. So if you ever wanted to see a sloth encounter here at Ocoee Riverside Farm, keep watching. This is Finn. He's a fennec fox. And guess what? We have over 150 animals here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. We have spider monkeys, sloths, fennec foxes, camels, and get this, kangaroos that you can bottle feed. They are the cutest, little cuddliest creatures ever. A couple of the babies I think are Ruby, Max, Phoebe, and Rachel. We named the little set Phoebe and Rachel because I thought Phoebe runs really funny on Friends, and I think kangaroos run kind of funny too. Your niece's favorite animal is a fox? Well, that's awesome. She can come here and cuddle with a fennec fox. And we have another fennec fox. Her name is Gwen, and this is Finn. Flash, we're gonna feed you at 11, buddy. Flash here is like, hey, how about some breakfast? So we don't hold Flash, but we do hold our other 3 sloths. So we have Chloe, Zoe, Flash, and Dash. Flash is the only one that we don't hold. We don't hold him because he doesn't want to be held. So we're not going to force an animal to do something that they don't want to do. Our other animals are very special ambassador animals that they've basically been held since birth. They seek human interaction. They like cuddles. That's why we call it Cuddles and Snuggles with a Sloth. Good morning, John. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Super duper marvelous. We're talking about fennec foxes.
Yeah?
I guess you
Hey,
gathered
that looks like one right there.
This is one. This is a fennec fox.
I'm not.
Well, I was going to say, we had some kayakers when I was younger, and they would have the gray hair, and we're like, oh, it's a silverback. It's the main gorilla, you know,
Yeah.
the OG kayaker. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So what's going on this morning,
silver
John?
Face. I'm supposed to be leaving in 30 minutes, and I got a suitcase out. but it's empty. And
What's up?
my suitcase.
Oh.
I pulled one out of the closet. I haven't put anything
Nobody's
in it as
packed it
yet.
for you?
No.
Oh,
No.
well. Airport's expensive for clothing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Airport is very expensive for that.
I have traveled with an empty suitcase before.
I
That was
have
back when I had money and didn't care.
showed up for a wrong flight or on the wrong day, and then I just booked one somewhere else. I was like, well, I'm already at the airport. I'll go somewhere else. Maybe not the wisest decisions when I was younger, but
Yeah, I was a little short on the wise decisions.
they were
At certain
fun.
points when I was young. Yeah, it was fun.
Learned a lot. You know,
I have traveled with a backpack to, wherever. Wash your underwear out in the sink and keep going.
I'll try to come up there before when she starts. I'll come up there and say hi, bye, whatever.
Is she getting ready to do one?
At 11.
Oh, okay.
We're just getting it warmed up for everybody. Because I think we need them warmed up because I don't know if you guys have been outside, but it is chilly. So here's the thing about sloths. They need their environment to be between 75 to 80 degrees constantly. So when it's 30, 40 degrees outside here in Tennessee, we gotta pump up that heat. I don't know if you guys remember kind of at the beginning of this year, I almost call it last year, January, February, we had all that snow. So you can imagine the heating costs, keeping an environment warm for this good guy. So another awesome animal that we're gonna go over here in 1 second is an armadillo. So, a lot of cool animals, over 150 animals. And the reason I'm gonna go get Baku is he's actually related to this guy, Sloth. He's a Zathoran. Now, part of the reason I wanted to learn that word, I just think it sounds cool. But it has a really, really good meaning. So, let me go put Finn back. I'm gonna grab the armadillo. He's a 3-banded armadillo, and I'll be right back. Go ahead and let me know where you're watching from, and if you've ever already held a sloth. Diane, good morning. Sloth's your favorite critter? That's awesome. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I was putting up Finn, the fennec fox, and then I was like, oh, I gotta grab Baku. So, when I was talking about Zathorans, this guy, a three-banded armadillo, sloths, and anteaters are all Zathorans. So what Zathorans means is hinge spine. So these are the only three mammals that can ball themselves all the way up. Pretty unique. Did you know that there's over 20 different kinds of armadillos? So there's a really, really cute little tiny one called the pink fairy armadillo. And then there's a giant one, and it's called, no shocker here, the giant armadillo. But it can weigh up to 100 pounds. So that's a big guy. But I really love how he just fits together. Beautifully symmetrical, designed by God. It's pretty cool. He can just ball himself up and be a little impenetrable wall. So this outside area is called his carapace. And it's made up of keratin, which is the same material as like your hair and your nails, right? So when he grows, it grows with him. And then you can see these light bands right here. That's what gives him the flexibility. And then his cute little ears, they just tuck right in when he folds himself up. I think he's pretty cool. And then when you set him down, I think that he looks and sounds like a potato on high heels. Watch this. See how he just scurries around? He is the cutest little guy ever. Come here, Margo. It's a little adventure to get them sometimes, because man, can they move. So their shell is so strong that it's actually going to stop a bullet. It's really amazing. All right, so here is another thing that I found out the other day. In South America, they make a musical instrument out of the shell of armadillos. So it's called a charango. And so it kind of looks like a little banjo, and then the back of the body of the guitar is the shell of an armadillo. Now we're not gonna do this to Baku here because we think that he is really cute and cuddly, but I just thought it was cool to know. We are looking for a female friend for Baku here. We want to name her Shaka Khan and then have some walkout music. John is definitely a child of the 80s, so I think he's really looking forward to that. So pretty cool. UK house temps could be okay for a sloth. You don't have any real extreme temps. Well, I think it'd be a little chilly in the UK for a sloth. It needs to be 75 to 80 Fahrenheit. So it's definitely got to be pretty warm. And the reason that it has to be so warm is because you're keeping the bacteria culture alive inside them. They don't really regulate their temperature. They are warm-blooded, and they don't hibernate, nor do they go into a state of torpor. But they can slow their metabolism all the way down to only 300 calories per day. Is the sloth real? Yeah, the sloth's real. This is Flash. If you guys are just joining us, we're live here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. I'm holding Baku. He's a three-banded armadillo. This is Flash. He's a two-toed sloth. And if you want to see what a sloth encounter is like, keep watching, because at 11, we're going to do a sloth encounter. So you'll get to see what it's like. And I'm pretty sure it's the full thing. So what that means is the first part of the sloth encounter, the ones that are at 10 and 10:30, and I believe 11, are with Flash. So you're feeding him, learning everything about sloths, petting him, but not holding Flash, because Flash has never been held. Then the second part of the encounter is where people hold Flash. Or not Flash, but Dash, Zoe, or Chloe. We do not hold Flash. So Michaela is back, and I'm gonna drag her onto camera because she's got some pretty exciting news. I mean, the married thing was cool, but what awesome news did you get yesterday?
Well, as of right now, it's just that we're married. We'll expose that
Oh,
later.
I opened my mouth too soon. No shocker there, but at least I didn't actually really spill the beans.
Yeah.
So later on, we might have a secret for you.
We will later
All right,
on.
all right.
It's gonna be really cool.
Maybe the secret was you changed your name.
I did. Yeah,
So,
we did do that. We did
that
all the
went
paperwork.
well.
Yeah, we did all the paperwork yesterday. So now it's now Michaela Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we can just yell Werner and somebody will respond. We don't know. Half the farm. Alright guys, that was Michaela. She does our sloth keeper experience. She is our sloth keeper. No, she's not having a baby. I wouldn't spill the beans about that. I'd get really in trouble. Is the sloth real? Yes, the sloth is real. I'm going to go put Baku back, and then we're going to get ready to do this sloth encounter, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Baku here stretching out. I'm going to go let him run around some. Thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the gifts, the shares, the likes, the comments. We just got in all of our new wagons, and they're right on the banks of the river, guys. I think we named one of them like the paddy wagon and the prairie wagon. I kind of think we should decorate the paddy wagon a little jailhouse or zebra style. But whatever we do, I'm sure it'll be amazing. So guys, if you want somewhere cool to stay, check out the covered wagons. They're right on the banks of the river, and we're in Benton, Tennessee. I hope everybody's having a wonderful holiday season. I'm gonna go put Baku back. We're gonna be doing a sloth encounter in like 5 minutes. Be right back, guys. Cute. Alright, so we are starting a sloth encounter soon, but when I walked by, baby Chloe reached up to me, and I'm a little bit of a sucker, so I had to pick her up. But if you've ever wanted to hold a sloth, you can come here and hold this cute little baby sloth. This is Chloe. She's only about 7 months old, and she weighs just over 2 pounds. When they're really young like this, they have this darker coloring, and then as you can see, as they get older, they start to lighten up. Right, Flash? Flash is about 7. We have 4 sloths here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. Chloe's the youngest, and Flash is the oldest. You want to hold the baby? Well, you can. Come visit us. And get this, you can stay here. Our covered wagons have heating and AC. They have huge beds in them, and they have bunk beds. So if you want to put 4 people in it, you can. Let's see here. Flash, 100-yard dash. That's right. Good morning, everybody. We're live here at Ocoee Riverside Farm. I'm holding Chloe, and that's Flash up above us. We're going to be doing an encounter at 11, so just in a couple minutes. I think here comes Nikki with the cage. I think I've moved out of the way for her.
you're good.
She's got room. Nakia's working with the iguanas and I think the tortoises, right? What you got in your pocket there, Nakia?
I've got a very poopy pocket because he just pooped in my pocket. But this is one of our baby sulcata tortoises.
Oh. So excuse me. So sulcata tortoises are really cool, guys. They're gonna live a super long time. They can live over 100 years. So a couple of the sulcata tortoises that we have here are, what is it, Franklin and Fiona, and I think they're almost 20 years old, and they weigh about 100 pounds. They're getting close to it, right? Here's a cool fact about a different type of tortoise. So Galapagos tortoises. Charles Darwin took one from the Galapagos Islands, and here's the deal. Steve Irwin ended up with it, and it was 176 years old when it died. I think that's pretty amazing that a tortoise is gonna live almost 200 years. Truly amazing.
We'll put it in action. We're getting kind of situated in here, but we'll be with Flash for the first little bit, and then we'll move over and hold Dash.
Yeah, I'm over out of your way in just a second.
Playing musical animals here this morning. Playing musical animals here this morning. We're bringing some baby sulcata tortoises down from the shop that's up there. Go ahead and squeeze on in.
I'm gonna get that stool out of there. I don't know what that
So this is Flash. A lot of people miss Flash when they first come in because they're not expecting to look up.
Right?
Flash is 7 years old. He's been with us for about 4 years. And Flash is not a holding sloth because he's not an ambassador sloth. He wasn't raised the same way that Dash and Zoe and Chloe were.
Ah,
They're the three
gotcha.
sloths that we actually hold. And naturally, you know, sloths by nature are very solitary animals. So sloths in the rainforest, if you just go out and you're trying to, you know, pick and hold a sloth like you would Dash is just gonna sit in your lap and hold, kind of purr like a little house cat. Well, you pick one up from the rainforest, they're gonna be clawing your eyeballs out like a feral cat trying to get away from you. And so Flash has never been held, and he's had opportunities to climb onto us if he's wanted to. He's just never made that decision, and so that'll be completely up to him if he ever decides to one day.
Yeah.
There have been times where he's been kind of lower in his enclosure, and we've come over and been like, you know, if you need any assistance getting anywhere, like we're just here for moral support. You can always tell he kind of reaches out, and, like thinks about it. I was like, no, I'll just figure it out on my own.
Oh.
So,
You
this
said
is
he's
just where-
7?
Yes, 7 years old. Yep.
How long do they usually live?
It varies quite a bit. It's kind of the same as cats. You know, a feral cat's not going to live as long as a house cat is because they have a lot more, you know, viruses and diseases that can infect them, and you know, a lot of other animals trying to eat them. For a
Oh my
house cat,
goodness.
yeah, that's Chloe. For a house cat, they're going to live a lot longer because they get their food fed to them every day and everything,
Right.
and they're vaccinated and things like that. So I think same thing with sloths. The oldest 2 sloths that we know of live to be 54 and 52 years old.
Wow, that's
Those
awesome.
were both born and raised in captivity, and so they had their diet and everything well maintained. And kept up. They were 2 that lived in Germany, just passed away last year actually. But we expect in the wild a sloth to live approximately 10 to 15 years. That's kind of an estimate. We don't expect it to be any longer than that because there's yet to be any scientists that have been able to track one singular sloth from birth until natural passing, because a lot of times these guys are eaten. And while some people would consider that to be a natural way of going out, scientists really need to be able to calculate what it is of just a natural passing. So we're going to feed him his breakfast this morning. And usually the squash and zucchini are his least favorites. So we start out with that because if he knows that anything else is on the menu, he really just wants that and doesn't want any of the squash or zucchini.
Oh my goodness.
And so when you offer to feed him something, you just offer him the very end of it, and he'll sniff it, and if he doesn't want it, he'll just turn his head like that, and he'll just go on to another piece. And sometimes I've even just turned the same piece around and offered him that, and then he'll take it. He's just kind of finicky sometimes, but you just offer him the end of it, and once he takes a hold of it, he'll take a hold of the very end, and then you'll let go of it, and he'll take in the rest. So sloths have really poor eyesight, so they can't tell the difference between this and this.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of times, sometimes he'll lower down and be reaching out, trying to get somebody's attention to come over and give him a bite of food.
Oh my goodness.
And a lot of people are tempted to give him their hand or their finger or something, because you know dogs want to smell the back of your hand. Well, sloths are, he's just in eating mode, so don't give him food or anything. But you guys
Gotcha.
are welcome to come over, and what he'll allow is just real slow pets like this down the middle of his back with the back of your hand. But that's what he's comfortable with. So you guys are welcome to come on over and kind of offer him any of that, kind of feel how he feels. A lot of people are surprised, actually. He looks like he'd be really coarse.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of
Really
thinking.
bristly, but they're really not that coarse. In the wild, they would be. In the wild, they'd have really coarse, really bristly hair because they have an entire ecosystem that will live on their back in the wild, full of moss and algae and fungus and things like that that will help them camouflage in to the canopy of the rainforest, and all that will be on their backs. So from the floor, looking up, you can't really see a sloth, because they move so slow and they're just in the same spot. But in captivity, they don't have, they're not being rained on all the time, and so they're not growing any of that ecosystem on their backs, nor do they need it, because they're not trying to be camouflaged from anything.
Right.
In the wild, the other really important thing for them is that they have that ecosystem, because sloths will use a bacterial process to digest their food and not an enzymatic process like we do. So the bacteria that they utilize actually will come from a very specific type of moth that will live on their backs and feed off of that ecosystem, feed off that moss and algae and everything. And they're called the sloth moths because the only place in the entire world that those moths will live is on the back of a wild sloth. But not here, thankfully, because it would be pretty gross to be holding a sloth that had anywhere from 100 to 200 moths on its back. But those moths produce the same bacteria they use to digest their food, and so in the wild, that's how they digest it. In captivity, well, for all sloths, they get the first little bit of bacteria from their mothers, and then they'll keep that the rest of their lives as long as they're warm. But in the wild, temperatures are always fluctuating, and it does get cold in South America, even though pretty hot and humid for the most part. When it gets cold, all that bacteria in their system's wiped out, so that's why they need those moths.
So it's just like Tennessee?
Do what?
It's just like Tennessee, hot and humid for
Oh,
the
yeah.
most part.
Yeah. What do you think, bud? You just taking a little break?
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Oh my goodness, she's just over there.
Oh, yeah. So Chloe is one of our ambassadors, and when she sees people and hears people, that's what she starts to do. She starts to reach out and try to grab onto somebody.
Aw.
Because to become an ambassador sloth, they have to meet two requirements. They have to genuinely enjoy human interaction and actively seek out human attention. And so if she didn't do that all the time, she would not pass the ambassador test, and she would not have come here to a facility where she's held like we do here.
She is showing off.
And so Flash had much more of a hands-off approach to his raising. The people that raised him, after the mother weaned him, he basically just went into an enclosure by himself and was basically just observation. And that's a lot of people's reaction, but that's what naturally sloths are gonna seek out. For Chloe, she had a lot of conditioning starting from a really young age to get her slowly worked up to being comfortable with being around people and being held. It's not something that they're just gonna, change overnight and want to be around people like that. So it took Flash a long time to get to the point where he's at now, where he actually will come down and spend time with us like this. When he
Aw.
first came to us 4 years ago, he has a 20-foot enclosure just behind that door, and he would stay up at the very top of his 20-foot enclosure and would not consider coming down if somebody was in there moving around and talking to him.
Aw.
So it really took him about the first 2 years of having him to get him to the point where he would even start to venture down and be kind of around John. He was the primary caregiver at that time. He's the owner. And back then there were 3 employees, 2 of which being John and Donna, the owners. And so he spent a lot of time with Flash, and John is still Flash's favorite person.
Aw.
In the morning, sometimes if he's having kind of a slow morning, he's up at the very top of his enclosure, and I go in there and I start waking him up and talking to him, saying good morning and everything. He just kind of looks at me like, not feeling it today. And I'll come back out here and start making breakfast and everything, and then John will come in and do the same thing, walk in there and say the same thing, but he hears that it's John, and he'll come down pretty quickly for him.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm pretty much just chopped liver. But they're kind of like dogs. They do all pick their favorite people just like dogs and cats will.
Oh, of course they do.
Yeah. And they all have their own personalities and everything too. and they almost kind of go through like a little toddler phase too when they're young. We've been able to see that with Chloe and Dash. Because when Dash came to us, which he's sleeping just right there in that
Oh my
basket,
goodness.
he covers himself up every time he sleeps with a towel. That's why he's got to have that on top of him. But he'll sleep real good in there until he sees somebody. Then he wants to come out and say hello. But yeah, when they're young, they have like a little toddler phase that they'll go through where they're real mouthy. They want to explore everything with their mouths, and then they start to grow out of it as they get older. But all the sloths that we have here are two-toed sloths. You can see there's two on the front. But if you look real close at the back ones, they do actually have three. All sloths will have three on the back though. It's just the front where they differ.
Why do they differ like that?
That's just how they're made. All sloths will have three on the back like that, and then three-toed sloths will have three on the back, of course, and three on the front. So the three-toed sloths are the ones that typically people will picture in their head when they're thinking about a sloth. Those are the ones that have the band across their eyes, and the distinct markings like that. The two-toed sloths will have kind of that darker head and darker legs. Are you being picky this morning? He's like, those are all of my least favorite foods.
How about a favorite?
What do you think, bud?
Maybe kind of, no. It's not hungry today.
You being picky? What do you think?
Oh.
So you can see they have excellent core strength because he
Yeah.
can lean all the way down like that
My
and then still
goodness.
pull himself back up. And that makes for some pretty good pictures too if you guys want to take any pictures
Yeah.
and extend it down, because you can get all the way right up next to him just like this and he doesn't care at all.
Oh.
What do you think, bud?
He's like, I'm getting away.
Yeah. He's like, where are the green beans at?
Oh,
I haven't even gotten the green beans out because when he hears me crinkle the bag, he knows that they're out, and then he really doesn't want anything else. All right, bud.
Yeah, you see that one? It doesn't go in your nose. Oh, there you go. Oh, they got such little mouth.
He can open it up a lot bigger than what he is right now.
Oh, okay.
But if you look while they're chewing on the sides, they have four really sharp canines on
Yeah.
the sides, and a lot of people are surprised by those.
Yeah.
Because sloths are herbivores. You know, they just eat leaves. And most of the time, animals with sharp teeth like change your mind? Sharp teeth like that are meat eaters. So if you were to stumble across the skull of a sloth without knowing what animal it was, you would definitely be thinking top of the food chain for sure. Some kind of an animal that may be ripping other things out of the trees as they're going through because of how long their claws are on the end, and then how impressive their teeth are in their skulls, and even their skeletal structures. They have a total of 46 ribs, so that enables them to be able to survive falls from way high up in the air.
Goodness.
Let me show you the skull of a full-grown sloth. That's how long their teeth their canines will get.
Dang.
And that is accurate. His aren't quite that long because he's only 7, but then this is the skeleton of it.
Oh, wow.
The skull on this one's not as accurate. They don't have the long ones, but you can see how long the arms are. The arms are like twice as long as the legs. And then you see how many ribs they have and how long the neck and the tail. This is a three-toed sloth. Three-toed sloths will have just a little bit longer neck and a little bit of a tail. Two-toed sloths are a little bit more short and stumpy, but they make up for it in their lumbar spine. They have a longer back. So the two-toed sloth, like Flash, when he extends down, he can twist. He can have his hips facing one way, and his upper body he can twist all the way 180 degrees backwards to look back behind him, because he's got like 4 extra vertebrae in that lumbar spine that enables him to do that. The three-toed sloths cannot do that, but where they have that extra vertebrae in their cervical spine, they can twist their head 180 degrees backwards to look behind them. Not all the way around like an owl, but just to the backside. And those are kind of creepy in my opinion because they do it extremely slow. They'll be holding on to a branch and just slowly turn their head all the way back around. So it can be a little bit disturbing, and kind of glad that we don't have any three-toed sloths. But the three-toed sloths are quite hard to keep in captivity like this though, because their diets are really, really sensitive. In the wild, they'd be eating the leaves of the sarcopia trees, and those don't grow in North America. And so for the two-toed sloths, while that's their main diet in the wild as well, they can have their diets varied to where they're eating green beans, sweet potatoes, zucchini, and stuff like that. Three-toed sloths, not so much. They can really only eat those leaves. And so if you own a three-toed sloth, you basically have to own your own private jet that can fly you to and from the rainforest to get you their diet, because they just don't do well with the veggies like that, and we do spinach and kale and romaine lettuce and stuff like that for the leafy greens. Three-toed sloths really don't do well on that.
Huh.
But if you want to, you can set your bag. You can hang your bag
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
that'd be great. Thank you so
Hold on
much.
to it the whole time. Get this rice out before it starts to burn. Another thing that we feed them, which it's not Flash's main diet because he's not a baby, but it's this rice mixture, and this is kind of what it looks like after it's all mixed up. It's brown rice, shaved up sweet potatoes, and a really high quality dog food that we soak in water and then mix into it, and that's where they'll get their protein from. Flash, his protein comes from 2 hard-boiled eggs a week, and that's all the protein that he requires.
Oh, wow.
And so the babies, they need just a little bit more kind of stable form of protein that they get just a little bit every day. They do really well on the dog food. It's probably my least favorite part of the job to make this mixture because all that dog food right there that's soaking
Oh,
has
goodness.
a lot of water in it, and so you have to take it and squeeze the excess water
Oh.
out into the mixture.
That sounds
Yeah.
lovely.
I'll save that until
Mushy.
after you guys are gone because it really does pretty disturbing. But I tend to put it off until I absolutely have to do it.
Understandable.
Yeah. But they all love this mixture really well, and Flash gets it occasionally if he's being super picky and just doesn't want anything else. Then we'll give him a little bit of it because you guys are, here to feed him his breakfast. But he eats it when he extends all the way down. He'll be extended down like that and be eaten out of the bowl.
Okay.
And for us, that would be really difficult to do. If I try to do a handstand and eat upside down
that's
like
not
that,
happening.
it's not going to work. It's going to come back out because we have a 2-way valve. We can swallow our food and we can vomit it back up. Well, sloths only have a 1-way valve. So after a bite of food goes in, the valve slams closed and it's not coming back up. So if they eat something that doesn't sit right with them or they eat too much, well, they're stuck with that for another 30 days until it comes out the other end because it does take approximately 27 to 30 days to digest everything that's in their
Try something
system.
different now.
Nope.
You're being so picky.
He knows what he likes.
You're a slobber box. Look at all that on the side. Running down your face and everything.
I think it's so sweet.
I mentioned at the beginning how they do have really poor eyesight because they have a condition that's called rod monochromacy.
Mhm.
And that means they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells.
Oh.
So the cone cells are what's responsible for seeing color, whereas the rod cells, the rod cells pick up motion. So they are completely colorblind, but they see motion really well, and that's why they're really easily startled by quick movements or sudden noises because their eyesight's so poor. Their hearing and their sense of smell really makes up for it, and so we have to move real slow with them. And even just something like earlier when he came down, I was sitting in that chair. And I had been quiet for a long time, and then I kind of readjusted and moved, and it scared the daylights out of him. He was
Oh,
hanging up
bless.
above me. He jumped, he kind of scurried and looked back at me. And when they get real startled about something, they'll all their hairs will stand up on edge, and they'll start to kind of fluff up, and they'll just look like, is it safe to be right here?
Oh.
Because even for Flash, he was born and raised in captivity. He doesn't know what a jaguar or an ocelot or a harpy eagle or anything like that is. It's still hardwired in his brain to be more cautious about things that are quickly coming towards him or sudden noises, things like that, because
You know what you want, don't you, bud?
they have a lot of other animals in the rainforest that are trying to eat them. And so that's been something that has been hardwired into them over the years.
A little tongue.
And those claws too, those claws there will continuously grow throughout their life.
Oh, goodness.
So right now he's only 7 years old, but think about them living 54 years old. They get to be pretty long. They will dull down over time as they climb. You can see at the end, they're not really pointed, they're kind of dull, more of a blunt edge. Because we keep all the natural bark and everything on their trees, and they'll wear them down over time. When they're babies, they're a little bit more sharp because they don't climb quite as much. But then as they get older, as they start to grow more, they'll dull down.
So now, with them being in captivity, do y'all ever trim them?
You don't really have to, because like I said, they'll wear down as long as you have good bark on the trees in your enclosure. When they're babies, and they're still learning, like Chloe right now, she's starting to make the transition to where she actively seeks out human interaction. So when you walk up to her, she will climb onto you, but she's still kind of unsure about things, and so she really clamps down around you, making sure that she's gonna hold on, she's not gonna fall or anything, because it's unstable to be sitting up straight like that.
That's what we got, bud.
And she clamps down pretty hard sometimes, and so sometimes we'll take a little file and just kind of file the edges of her claws down because they're pretty sharp. But as she gets older and gets more stable, she won't clamp down as hard.
Oh. Now how old is Chloe?
Chloe is 7 months old now,
Oh
so
my
about
God,
7 and a half. Yeah. And Chloe, Dash, and Zoe, all three of our ambassador sloths, came from the same facility where he specializes in his ambassador sloths. He has other sloths like Flash that he raises with more of a hands-off approach where, you know, they just go by themselves once they're weaned, they can do what they want to do, and they have the option to climb onto people if they want to, but it's not a necessity for them. It's not something that they have instilled into them from a young age like these guys do. But for the ambassadors, that program, he starts them out at like a week old when they're still holding on to the mom. He'll go in and start slowly touching mom because mom's an ambassador herself and she's comfortable with that. And then slowly start to touch baby, to slowly start working them up. And then they start to make that transition where he'll hold baby for just a short amount of time and then give baby right back to mom so it's never stressed. And slowly work them up as they're being, you know, nurtured by the mother and everything. And then by the time that mom weans the baby, instead of baby just going all by themselves on a branch, holding on and trying to figure out how to be a sloth by themselves at that point, the breeder offers them a little stuffed animal or a towel or something to hold on to the same way that they'd be holding on to their mothers. And so then they make that transition to he'll hold on to the towel, the stuffed animal, slowly pet them like that. And then the sloth will make the transition on their own. Instead of holding on to the stuffed animal, well, I'd rather hold on to you. This is the person that's feeding me, the person that's petting me, and it's alive rather than the towel. But what do you think, bud? You're just gonna take a little break? That's his break side of the branch. He'll go over there and take a little break and then come back. They do that all throughout the day. They don't really, they sleep a good amount, but it's not long periods of time. They take little micro naps all throughout the day. So he just kind of takes a little breather and then comes back and starts to eat more.
Would it be okay if I got some pictures of Chloe?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
You're just so really cute.
She said,
No.
somebody pick me up. You had your breakfast this morning.
Are we able to pet her? No. Okay.
She's not part of the Sloth VIP encounter. She has her own encounters that are in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And they're very routine animals, more so than dogs and cats. You know, my dog, she knows that when mom's alarm goes off and she goes into the bathroom, as soon as the bathroom door opens back up, she goes running to the kitchen because she knows I'm going to go in there to feed her.
Mhm.
And sloths are the same way. And you know, Chloe right now, she's awake and she hears us, that's why she's awake and moving around. But for the most part, in the mornings, she sleeps in, and then in the afternoons, when it's her encounter time, even if nobody has scheduled, even if nobody has scheduled for her encounter, I still hold her for that amount of time, so that, you know, we keep her on that schedule and everything.
It's what you got, babe.
Goodness, buddy, you're being so picky today.
Oh.
You get no green beans for dinner tonight.
He's like, I want the whole bowl. I'm sorry you startled me.
Green beans are getting a little bit stale, buddy. I'm surprised you're still liking them. What else you guys got planned for the day? Just heading back home?
Yeah, just hanging out for a while.
Yeah.
Do you have other encounters while you're here, or just with the sloths?
Just sloths.
Oh, yeah, this is what you wanted. Yeah.
Well, since you guys live pretty close, maybe we'll see you again sometime to
Most definitely.
do some other encounters, because we've got over 150 animals here on the farm, and a lot of
Oh,
different
goodness.
encounters, so a lot of different options to do. And a lot of different sloth encounters. You know, we have Chloe's encounters as well that are in the afternoon, and hers, unless they've changed, because I just got back from a honeymoon.
Oh,
Before that,
congratulations.
thank you. Before that, her encounters were just 20 minutes at a time. So we're slowly working her up to where she'll be then 30 minutes at a time, but it's a slow process.
Yeah, I saw online that hers was 15 minutes, I think it
Oh,
was
they might be.
advertising.
Yeah.
So I was debating for his birthday, I'm like, okay, do we wanna do 30 minutes holding an adult or 15 with a baby?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well,
Decisions.
oh man, I was asking his family, I'm like, which one is he gonna like most? Couldn't decide.
Well, you get the best of both worlds with this one.
Yeah.
Well, 3 different ones today. You get a glimpse of Chloe. Chloe is about 2 pounds, and Flash is about 13
Oh, you're in
pounds.
feeding mode.
And then you can see on the undersides of their paw pads that kind of leather look.
Yeah.
It feels just like leather too, and it's really sensitive for them. They have a lot of nerve endings in those. Since their eyesight is so poor, a lot of times if they're in a new environment in the wild, if they're in a tree that they haven't been in before, they may see what looks like it could be the next branch, but it could be their own arm. And so they have to grab onto that, and they'll judge what they're grabbing onto by the paw pads
Oh.
and the sensation of that to figure out if it's something that they need to grab onto or
That's
if it's just a
clever.
little twig or something.
Yeah, I've heard about how sometimes they'll just fall out of trees.
They will. It happens quite often, actually. It happens about once a week on average. Whether it's due to a situation like that where they've been startled by something and they're not really given their brain time to process what they've grabbed a hold of, and they could grab a hold of their own leg and then they'll let go of the back leg and they'll fall. So that does happen occasionally. And then another thing that will happen quite often is a lot of times they'll spend a lot of time out on the very end of the branches where those branches get a lot thinner. And they're eating the leaves that are out there. Those are the fresh baby leaves that are just starting to grow, and that's what they prefer. And that's really the only leaves that they can eat. The older leaves will actually build up a toxin in them over time, and it's really difficult for them to break down. So they have to eat those fresh leaves that are out on the end. And while they're out there, if they make a miscalculated step or something and the branch is already real thin and weighing down under their weight, they can just slip off the end of it. Or if another animal has chased them out to the end of the branch, and they've both gotten out there, the branch may be able to support a 10 or 15 pound sloth, but probably not a 35 or 40 pound jaguar as well, which is one of the animals that really tries to taste the sloths quite often in the rainforest. Jaguars and harpy eagles as well. Harpy eagles are probably the most successful one that tries to eat sloths because they have the element of surprise. They come out from the sky and will rip, the sloth up off the branch, and their claws are kind of like coat hangers. And when they're on a branch, getting them down off that branch is really difficult to do. They basically have like a locking mechanism in their claws, but lifting them up off the branch gets them off a lot easier, and they're not expecting it, so they'll come off. Now, a sloth's grip strength is absolutely incredible. From the moment that they're born, they have the ability to withstand all of their body weight hanging by just one claw on the branch of a tree and everything else dangling. So comparatively, they're about 3 times stronger than a person. And they have the ability, some research has shown, to actually crush bones, probably pretty small bones, but they have a really, really strong grip strength.
You might have missed it out for a minute.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah,
so
it is really hot in here. It's gotta be stay hot and humid in here all the time for them. It's desirable for them, but not so much for us. It's gotta stay like that year round in here because they will use a bacterial process to digest their food, and bacteria is sensitive to cold temperatures, and that's why for in the wild they have all those moths on them because they have that constant supply of that bacteria given to them. Those moths living on their back will produce that bacteria, and so they'll just lick it up. But the first time that it gets cold outside and the bacteria they have in their system is, deteriorated, then they rely on that bacteria that they have on their backs to give them more of it. But in captivity like this, since we always keep them warm, we don't ever have to worry about them losing that bacteria, so they don't need the moths on them.
Right.
And those moths, the only place they live is in South America on the back of the wild sloth. And they rely on the whole entire ecosystem that they have living on their backs, and it's really, really sensitive too. And that's why, really, ultimately, we started the sloth encounters here because there are so many in South America, and like Roatan, Honduras is a really popular place for it. Was a really popular place for it. Within just the past few months, they've shut a lot of them down. But those sloth encounters, the sloths will go through hundreds of people back to back to back to back just holding for like 30 seconds and then on to the next person, but that stresses the sloth out so bad, and they get rid of all of that ecosystem and fluid
Right.
on their back. They'll dunk them in a bucket of cleaner beforehand to scrub all that off, because nobody wants to hold a sloth that has bugs crawling all over it, and algae and everything. And that really decreases the sloth's life expectancy to roughly 2.5 weeks after an experience like that. And of course, if people were aware of that, they wouldn't have been supporting those things, but they don't present it like that. They present it like, well, this is my pet, or he's just lived in this tree all his life and he's never moved from my backyard. He's always just been here and always wanted to be held, when they've just gone out the day before and found the sloth out of the rainforest. And that's what they'll do, and that's just, can't say that I blame them really, because that's just how they make their money. That's their way of life down there. That's how their dads did it, and that's how their dad's dad did it. So that's kind of how they're doing it. But the Conservancy Agency has thankfully went in just more recently and shut down a lot of those organizations and enforced more rules and regulations against handling the wild sloths, because it is so detrimental for them. Of course, the natives don't care about that. The people that are actually wanting to spend time with sloths would care if they knew about it. But that's when we ultimately started the sloth encounters here with these guys, because it's too precious not to share with people. And an ethical way for them to do so, where these guys have been bred for it. Flash is closer to like 3 or 4 generations removed from the rainforest, whereas our ambassador sloths are at least 6 generations removed from the rainforest. So they have been generationally bred in captivity for this type of interaction.
Right.
Whereas, you know, you get a sloth just out of the rainforest and try to hold it. The first several encounters that those people are having are not enjoyable encounters, and the sloth is trying everything in their power to get away from the person, including using their teeth. And you saw they do have really sharp teeth, so a lot of times the natives will pull the teeth beforehand, and then that leaves the sloth with no defense for any other animals that are trying to eat them or anything. But you can see those pupils, how tiny pinpoint little dots they are. They stay like that all the time in the daytime, but at nighttime they actually dilate quite a bit. At night they see a lot better than they do in the daytime, and that's why some people consider them to be nocturnal animals, but they're not fully nocturnal. They are awake quite a bit in the day, and they do sleep quite a bit at night, but they just see a lot better at nighttime. So even when they're awake in the day, a lot of times they'll just choose one comfortable spot to hang out in that tree and basically stay there all day long. And then at nighttime, that's when they'll start to move around and find their food and everything, because that's when all the other animals are sleeping. So that's when they come out and start to.
Except for some of the cats.
Yeah, some of the cats, yeah. You show your acrobats. Acrobatics. Yeah, stressed out that cat. You're missing the acrobatics he's showing over here. It reminds me of a little monkey when he's hanging like that, just by one front and one back. What do you think, bud? Well, we're right at about time to finish up with him, but I know he's not ate a whole lot this morning for us, so we'll go ahead and see if he wants any of this rice. Come over this big bud. You are a slobber box this morning. What do you think?
Gotta get in position.
Yeah, this is his eating side, that's his resting side. He doesn't like to mix them up. What do you think here, bud? And so he'll lower down to eat this. And extends all the way out where he's at a better angle here. And you can hold this bowl, and you can get all the way right up next to him just like this and take pictures of him. You guys can. He doesn't care at all.
Oh, that's awesome.
You want a picture?
Yes.
And I can take a picture of both you guys standing there too.
Oh,
Me too.
that'd be great, thank you.
Which phone do you want me to use?
Yes, probably.
I love it when he hangs down like that.
Oh, no,
They
it's so
make
cool.
they make some really good pictures. Sure this is
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. He likes to have one claw on the bottom side of that bowl. Make sure you're not going to take it
Make
from
sure
him.
you're not going
It's not
anywhere.
going anywhere.
This will stay here. And there are extended down like that, you can see how much longer the front arms are than the back legs. And like I said, if you were to stumble across that, just the skeletal remains of a sloth,
Oh,
you'd be
yeah.
thinking with how long those arms are and the claws on the end that maybe they swing like monkeys like that, and as they're going through, like slash things out as they go by, because of how impressive they are and what they look like. When in reality, it's kind of ironic to see how slow and gentle they are. Kind of makes you rethink some of the dinosaurs if they were actually as ferocious as their skeletons make them out to be, or if
Exactly.
they were just big cuddle bugs.
By all means, this one should definitely be more than he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about it, really the skeleton of a T-Rex and the skeleton of a kangaroo look very similar. You know, the
Right.
skulls are very different, but the big long tail, there is vertebrae in the end of a kangaroo's tail, and the legs are shaped the same way. But kangaroos can't move their legs independently. They have to move them together to hop. So it's like T-Rexes, are they moving independently, or are they just big jumping things through the
Oh my
woods? Like,
goodness.
it's kind of funny.
It's something you never really think about.
Yeah. And a lot of people will ask me what sloths evolved from because they don't look like any other animal that's on the earth today. And we did used to have the giant ground sloths, but they looked very different than the tree sloths do. And they were so big they couldn't climb trees. But I always tell people that sloths evolved from other sloths.
Yeah.
In the beginning, they were sloths. They looked a lot different than they do now, but genetically they were still sloths. A lot of people say they look kind of like bats in the face, and I think you'll see that a little bit more with Dash here in a little bit, because Dash is a lot darker, and his face is kind of long, and he'll look up at you just like he's like this little fruit bat. They get koalas a lot, like they look kind of like koalas, but genetically they're not close to anything like that. They are part of a superorder that's called Zithorans, and that means a mammal with a hinged spine. So they have the ability to curl all the way up into a little ball, and a comfortable resting position that Zoe likes to do is she'll set her booty on a branch and basically fold herself to where her head is resting on her butt.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so it looks like it would be the most uncomfortable position in the world, but it's comfortable for them. And two other animals that are part of that super order are armadillos and anteaters. They can both curl all the way up like that. Do you have an itch?
Their claws are very ineffective.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people will ask what their defense mechanism is, and they really don't have one. Their teeth are really sharp. Their bite force isn't very incredibly strong, but their teeth are really sharp. So, you know, if they clamp down on you, that would not be very
You
pleasant.
don't feel it.
The claws aren't as sharp. They have a really good grip strength. So definitely if they grabbed onto a wrong position on your hand and they really wanted to squeeze down because they were scared, they could do it. Flash has had a hold of my whole hand before and has never squeezed down or anything. He's, you know, comfortable with us. He knows that we're not a threat to him or anything. But if you try to pick up a sloth that had never been held before, or even Flash, he's comfortable with us. He's comfortable with us feeding him and petting him and everything. But we've never held Flash. And so if I were to try to pry him down off the branch and hold him for the first time, I'm not saying that he wouldn't clamp down trying to get away.
Yeah. So how does he, is this his enclosure?
No, this is just where he stays for roughly an hour in the mornings, and then his enclosure is right back behind that door, which you guys will see him go back up into here in just a few minutes. And he puts himself back up and brings himself down. In the mornings when I get here around 9 o'clock, I open up his door and walk in there and start waking him up, say good morning, start to kind of tap on the branches that are down at the end to kind of wake him up. And then when he hears me chopping up breakfast out here, he knows before long, he knows regardless of whether or not he comes out here and comes out onto this branch, he still gets his food in his bowl, so he has to come down for that anyway. So he's like, well, I'll just come down and get it quicker when I'm, you know, interacting with people. So that's what he does. And he's looking like he is right about ready to go back up into his enclosure.
Oh.
I don't know if he's wanting to go in or if he's just wondering about it. He may wait just a little bit longer and see if he wants to hang out a little bit, because he's not ate as much breakfast this morning. We'll see. We're going to get ready and do the second portion of the VIP part, which is actually where we'll hold Dash. And Dash has just been sleeping right here. What are you doing, baby?
No.
All right. Are you waking up, bud? Hello. Good morning. Were you so sleepy? No tongue sticking out. Hey, buddy. You can see two real good on the three on the back, yeah.
Oh, those are back.
But that's just the back, but then you see the front there, they do have just the two. So they are two-toed sloths. More specifically, two-toed Linnaeus sloths.
Okay.
There's a two-toed Hoffmans as well, and they're the same. They've got two on the front and three on the back. They're just a little bit different marked. They don't really have the darker head like this. They're all just kind of dirty blonde all over. But whoever wants to hold first can sit in the blue chair, and then if the other person wants to sit here, and then we can swap them halfway through, whatever you guys are gonna do.
Go for it.
So when we're holding and interacting with a sloth, first and foremost, you really have to keep in mind about their eyesight, how they do have really poor eyesight, but they pick up the motion really well. So we've got to have all our movements be real nice and slow. And he'll hold on to you just like this. He'll wrap his legs around your torso. You'll have one hand kind of supporting underneath his booty because he likes to be down low, and if you don't, he'll go in between your legs. And then you can pet real nice and slow with an open hand down the middle of his back like this. But just keep in mind, they don't really like the scritches like dogs and cats would. They don't like to feel your fingertips, just the open hand. And their legs are pretty sensitive. They're super cool, and a lot of people are tempted to pull them out away and look at them, but they really don't like it too much. That's sort of their security blanket. That's how they feel most secure, is when they're wrapped around you like that. And so he will open up his back legs and just open up and wrap around your waist. And you'll put one hand underneath his booty just to support him. And he'll take his front and just kind of wrap up underneath your armpits.
Oh.
This morning. Sorry. So like I was mentioning earlier, when they're younger, Dash is, he turned a year old in August. August 5th was his birthday. But when they're younger, they kind of go through a mouthy phase. They explore a lot with their mouths. And so sometimes if he sees the movement of your arm going up and down on the side, he'll turn his head and slowly start to open his mouth up and go towards your arm and kind of nibble and see what's down there. We don't want to encourage that kind of behavior, and so if you do see him start to go down there, just move your arm away so that he knows that it's not something he can nibble on. And he's starting to grow out of it. He's been doing a lot better, but sometimes he's still, that movement is what they're most attracted to, and so when they see that, that's what they go towards.
He is just staring at you.
Yeah. He is our most inquisitive sloth, and that's why most of the time when I do his encounters, I sit out of the way. Because if he sees me moving around and everything, that's what he's most interested in. He could care less. He's just looking the whole time.
He needs
No,
more everything
Henry.
is.
I'll leave it here in case you change your mind. Clear me out a little spot so I can kind of sit over here out of the way because I tend to move around a lot. It's kind of distracting for him. So that's what he does, and he'll let go completely with the front arms and just lean back like that
Oh my
to see
goodness.
what's going on. And it kind of startles some people, makes some people nervous because they think he's going to topple over backwards.
Yeah, that's what I
But
would
they're
think.
very different than babies. You know, babies would just fall over backwards.
Oh,
They don't
yeah.
have good core strength. But they have the ability, you can see Flash, he leaned all the way down and still pulls himself all the way back up. So when they do that, they kind of get explorative sometimes, and they like to lean back and look around, and that's completely fine. And Dash has actually lightened up quite a bit in color from what he was when he first came to us. When he first came to us, he was about Chloe's size, and you saw how she was all one kind of solid color. And the darkest spot that he is up on the top of his head is basically what color he was all over his body.
Oh, wow.
All sloths are born one solid kind of